Hey, welcome back. This is episode number 2. It's the Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth with Brian O. Butler. And I want you to see his website at wealthstandardfinancial.com. That's where you have a direct pipeline into Brian's office, so he can help you with everything that you need when it comes to planning for your future, planning for retirement, and planning for what is supposed to be the best time of your life. And I will tell you that, Brian, you are the kind of person that when it comes to the best time of your life, listen, most of us would include food.
Yep.
In the best time of our life. And because I know you love to get in the kitchen, Chef Brian is here to serve up some of the best dishes to help you get to that finish line. So let's talk first. If people go to your website, wealthstandardfinancial.com, they are perusing through. You've got plenty of places for people to kind of click through. You've got some tools on there for people to kind of get an idea. Where am I right now?
Yeah.
What does an initial consultation look like with you?
Well, the initial consultation is really getting to know you and what you actually want from either your retirement or getting to a work optional or just general questions that you may have. What is it that you truly want? Getting to the root cause of that will allow me to then piece together some of the right ingredients for what you're trying to do. So if I can put those right ingredients, just like a recipe, put those right ingredients together, I can make a great dish to your taste. And so it's just like I make a lot of food that's Cajun and Creole, but if, for instance, my wife doesn't like it too spicy, well, I didn't make the dish to her taste. I have to make some adjustments from there so she can be happy. And it's the same thing with retirement and financial planning. You want to piece together everything based on what the client is comfortable with that will also get them where they want to be. And so we spend a lot of time getting that clarity. And then from there, we're able to implement strategies, whether it be from an investment standpoint, insurance, taxes, estate planning. All of those different ingredients are staples in our kitchen. So we want to make sure that we piece all of that together and make that part of their main dish, their main retirement goal. And so that's why we bridge the gap between cooking and retirement. There's a lot of overlap when we're working with clients.
When you were talking about in the last episode, especially like married couples, they come in and, you ask them, hey, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, we want to do whatever we want whenever we feel like it. And okay, what exactly is that? And you may get surprising answers from, it's not you that may be getting the surprise answers. It may be the spouse who is like, I had no idea. Now's the time to know what that ingredient is.
Now, it's very important when you're planning for couples that both are highly involved in the planning process, because you want both perspectives. And many times when you bring them together, they're not on the same page on everything. And so if you can bridge the gap, give them some clarity, and then just implement those strategies from there, you're able to really solve a lot of problems and, pain points. And so we act as that go between the couples, not couples therapy, but, we can do what we can to get them where they want to be. And once you're able to do that, it takes a little bit of work, but once you're able to do that, you see the joy on their faces because it takes stress away. So uncertainty, breeds stress for a lot of people.
Yeah, it does.
And so what we try to do is give them some certainty in certain areas and then taking some of that stress off piece by piece. And once we're able to do that over time, especially building their financial plan, giving them the cash flow that they're looking for, all of a sudden, it allows them to think beyond just the day-to-day working. It allows them to have some vision. And if they can have that vision of what's possible in their retirement, all of a sudden everything expands.
If you can dream it, you can build it. And if there are marriage therapists that just happening to be listening to this podcast right now, Brian, you may be getting a ton of referrals because, they say that a lot of people, when they end up in marriage counseling, finances could be a big part of that. And you could almost be the person that saves somebody's marriage because of the fact that, that is one of the things that I'm sure is very heavy in a lot of relationships. One of the things that I know is pretty heavy on a lot of people's minds right now, and it has to do with Social Security. We heard in November that a lot of people, they're wondering about the upcoming election, and depending on which person ends up in office, what does that mean for Social Security? Back in November, they were talking about the program could actually run out of money as early as 2034. which could trigger as much as a 25% cut in benefits. We just got news a few days ago that they're extending that, I guess you would say, to 2035 for basically max benefits of your Social Security plan. How does that change how you talk to people about what they're doing with Social Security, when they should start to draw from it, when they should, or what they should do with that money?
So Social Security in the short term is just a break-even point. So you're looking at the client, how much money do they need, and what resources are they getting that money from, and what guaranteed sources of income do they have? So whether it be Social Security, if they're lucky enough to have a pension, annuity income, life insurance income, we're going to look at the guaranteed sources of income and then compare that to their other sources that will help determine when you should take Social Security. You know, taking into account longevity in your family and your current budget will determine, do I need to take this early? Or should I wait even later? I have a couple that the husband doesn't have longevity at all. The wife has tons of longevity. The grandmothers, great grandmothers have all lived to be over 100 years old. And so wow. We talked about delaying her and him delaying as long as we could. And I think we're going to be able to wait straight till full retirement age for him because he had enough assets that made that possible. Now, some people are not in that situation. So depending on your situation, you might need to take it early. You might need to take it later, just depending on your income. And that's where the calculations come in. And so what we try to do is show you the pros and cons of taking it early, waiting, and taking it at full retirement age. And when we're able to do that in the landscape of higher taxes that could potentially come, Social Security potentially running out of money, when you're able to combine all of that, it helps you make an educated decision. Because, you know, if you have a Republican client or a Democratic client, they may be coming from two different areas. But the way I try to bridge that gap is math. So math and probability.
Well, the math does not vote either way, right?
Math and probabilities. And I tell them a lot of times, because I have clients that sit on both sides of the aisle, extreme right, extreme left, everything in between. Your money doesn't care who's in office. But you need to really figure out what's the tax environment that particular administration is focused on. And then we can make adjustments from there. And then, you know, if you have a 30-year retirement, the likelihood that you're going to have a Republican in office and the likelihood that you're going to have a Democrat in office is almost guaranteed. So how do you bridge the gap?
It's almost possible that you could be spending 50-50 in time with both over that course.
And that's the more likely thing. So you look at Ronald Reagan was the first president to tax your Social Security. And then Bill Clinton was the second to tax your Social Security, increased it. So when you're looking at it from that standpoint, it's a numbers game. This is a tax issue. Baby boomers are the majority of who's taking Social Security right now. And because Gen X, which I'm a part of, and millennials, we didn't have as many kids as, you know, baby boomers. So the replacement rate isn't there as much. So the tax base is getting smaller. So what does that mean? Taxes have to go up in order to keep funding Social Security, or something else is going to change. And the cousin to Social Security is Medicare and Medicaid. Yeah. Those two line items in the federal budget are huge. And so what do you think is going to happen? In my mind, I think taxes have to continue to rise. And how do you plan for that? So a lot of times we spend a lot of time looking at the tax rates that you're currently paying and how your assets are allocated to give you the best chance for longevity and that money to last for you and for generations, if possible.
You know, of course, you love to get in the kitchen, and we're always talking about, you know, the different ingredients and whatnot. And I would say that the ingredients themselves are much like the tax code, where it doesn't matter what you personally think about those ingredients. Right. What you do with those ingredients is really kind of what matters. And that's the math problem that you were talking about. Because at the end of the day, if I were to say, hey, let's all close our eyes, and you have no idea who implemented the latest tax strategy, all you have is a math formula, That's what you go on. And that's where you get to be that awesome chef to kind of pick apart. We need more paprika here. Is this a time when people, because I know for some, you hear some of the big financial names out there. Dave Ramsey will tell some people, well, you need to start drawing on your Social Security sooner rather than later if you think you may be able to invest in it and make more money over that term of years before you would get to that 100% or even more kind of benefit. What's the idea behind all that?
Well, his idea, I think, is that you could potentially make more money investing rather than having it just sit with the government. Now, that's a risky challenge for most people to worry about, just because it's not something that we would recommend doing, just because you want some certainty when it comes to Social Security. So you have Social Security and then you have your investments, and you should look at them as two separate things. One's income, one is trying to grow and give you some income potentially. And so when you're looking at it from that standpoint, even though I get Dave is worried about the federal government running out of money and whatnot, but a lot of times the government doesn't want to cut those benefits because people have depended on them for so long, and it's like the third rail of politics. Which party is going to be the one that pulls the trigger? Neither one. So we'll inch along. We'll keep getting the can kicked down the road. So like you said, benefits expire in 2034, and now it's 2035. But there'll be some other adjustments and ripple effects as you go through on taxes, estate, sales tax. There'll be other ways that you're going to be affected. Inflation. How do you plan and get the right recipe so that way you have those staples on you're in your pantry ready to go for when winter comes? That's what we're planning for. Things have been good for the most part over the last 10, 12 years. If you look at a chart, the market's gone up. But you have to plan for, I'm going to be taking income out. How do I grow my portfolio and protect myself so that way I can be successful? It's just like a squirrel during the winter. You see them just putting nuts away because they know even if it's a good winter, they need to have reserves ready for them so that they can be protected.
You know, one of the things that you've already put me at ease on is I think a lot of people, and I wouldn't be surprised if you said that you have, especially at a time like this, when people say, "Oh my gosh, they're taking Social Security away," or "It's going to be run out before I even get to that place," and they're worried. They have a fear inside, or they have some apprehension or anxiety with that, and even just the way that you described that about, in your pantry and how you need to store up for certain things with different ingredients for whatever that recipe may be. And that recipe is honestly different for everyone. It's not the same, a blanket recipe that everyone has to live by, nobody's telling us a very specific thing that every one of us have to live by. And that's
absolutely. Because people like certain foods and don't like other foods. There's nothing wrong with those particular foods. Oatmeal I've heard people say oatmeal's great for you. I've heard people say oatmeal's horrible for you. What do you like? Yeah. And is it, we have to look at the effect it has on you in particular. So you have vegans, you have meat eaters, and everything in between. How can you build a strategy and a plan that helps them on their terms? And so how do you please the audience? And that's my target. And that's why I like the combination of cooking and the financial piece, because there's so much overlap.
How do you figure out whether or not we're okay to eat eggs this year? Well, listen, Brian, always a pleasure to get together with you and talk about, people's future, people's lives. We always want to look ahead to the future and what is good for us down the road. And you know what? The best part about, what you have to say, Brian, is you have a disposition that I think really puts people at ease. And I think that, when you go and you want to see what Brian has for you, go to the website, wealthstandardfinancial.com, and he'll get that recipe put together for you. And you'll be walking out with a smile on your face and a bigger one every time you come back to see him.
That's the goal.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for hanging out with Brian O. Butler. And I'm Jeff Miles. It's the Retirement Chef, whipping up wealth with Brian O. Butler. The opinions voiced in The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth with Brian Butler, are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Guests on The Retirement Chef, Whipping Up Wealth are not affiliated with CWM LLC. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.